Welcome back, guys. Now let's take a look at the formula method. How do you apply formula method? You take the step-by-step process of completing the square to arrive at the formula method. Now, to get our formula method, which most of you know, first thing first, we make sure that we are working with a coefficient of 1 for x squared. So this will give us divide through by a. If I divide through by a, it means I have not changed the formula. If I divide through by a, this should give us ax squared over a plus bx over a plus c over a is equal to 0 over a. So my equation still remains intact. So this is x squared plus bx over a plus c over a is equal to 0. Now, this guy here cannot be factorized. However, I can move this guy away from here and look for something that I will add to the left-hand side to be able to factorize the left-hand side. Now let's subtract c over a from both sides. So if I do that, this will give me x squared plus bx over a plus c over a minus c over a is equal to 0 minus c over a. So this is simply x squared plus bx over a plus 0 is equal to negative what? C over a. Now, doing this step first, subtracting first can be done before dividing. What do I mean? I can choose to subtract c from both sides first. So this will give me as squared plus bs is equal to negative c. After doing that, I will still have to divide through by a. So this will now give me s squared plus bx over a is equal to negative c over a. So any of these two steps can come first. Now, when you get to this step, we now apply what we call completing the square, which is very important for you to learn as a mathematics student. Completing the square, because you are going to be applying this in other fields of mathematics. How do you complete the square? You complete the square by simply adding the square of half the coefficient of the unknown by adding the square of half the coefficient of the unknown. Now, you'll be asking yourself, how does this work? So I'll give you an example of a quadratic equation so that you will see how exactly it works. Now, let's say we're given a question like this: x squared plus 8x plus 16 to be equal to 0. We've learned factorization method already. So how do we factorize? Look for two numbers that when you add up, it will give you 16. Sorry, it will give you 8, but when you multiply, it will give you 16. And I believe those numbers are 4 and 4. So this is x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16 is equal to 0. Factor 2 at a time. This will be x into x plus 4 plus this guy will be 4 into x plus 4 is equal to 0. So you'll be having x plus 4 into x plus 4 is equal to 0. So this will give us x plus 4 all squared is equal to 0. So you can see that the square of a number equals to 0 is making this guy a perfect square. It's making this guy a perfect square. So supposing I was given just x squared plus 8x to be equal to 0, and I'm asked what number or what value should I add to the left-hand side to make the left-hand side a perfect square? What value should I add to the left-hand side to make the left-hand side a perfect square? From what you can see, that value should be what? 16. And what is 16? 16 is simply the square of half the coefficient of 8. Half of 8 is 4. 4 all squared is what? 16. So if I add 16 to this guy, it makes this guy a perfect square. So if I add a value to this guy, 16, if I add 16 to this guy, it makes it a perfect square. So what am I adding? It is simply what? 4 squared. What am I adding? It is simply 4 squared. So how do I now write this in quadratic form? I pick just the x, and I pick what I'm adding here, which is a positive 4, and I introduce my square. As simple as that. So you have something like this: x squared plus 6x. What should I add to this guy to make it a perfect square? Half of 6 is 3. What is 3 all squared? 9. So I can just put here plus 3 squared. And now will I represent this? Pick your x, pick your positive 3, and put all what? Squared. I'm given a question like this: x squared minus 5x. What should I add to this guy to make it a perfect square? The half of minus 5 is minus 5 over 2. So I need to add negative 5 over 2 all squared. So if I'm to write this in this form, I'll pick my x, pick this guy here, negative 5 over 2 all squared. As simple as that. So this will make this guy a perfect square. So you should take note that whenever you are making an expression a perfect square, you simply add the square of half the coefficient of the unknown. In this case, the unknown is x. So I'm going to add the square of half the coefficient of the unknown, which is what? B over A. And remember, this is an equation. So whatever you add to the left-hand side, you must add to the right-hand side to make this equation to be intact. Whatever we add to the left-hand side, let's add to the right-hand side. So still solving, this will give us x squared plus bx over a plus half of b over a is b over 2a. So this will be b over 2a raised to the power of 2. So this is the square of half the coefficient of x is equal to negative c over a plus b over 2a all squared, because whatever you add to the left hand side, you must also add to the right hand side. Now, how do we solve? I just say that you pick this guy and you pick this guy. You pick this and you pick this. So this will give us x plus b over 2a raised to the power of 2. You see, by making the left-hand side the perfect square, I've been able to factorize the left-hand side. So that's the whole essence of making the left-hand side a perfect square. So I can factorize. When you factorize, you can easily make x the solid of the formula. But if it's in this form, it is difficult. If it's in this form, it is difficult to make x the solid of the formula. Because if I choose to factor out x away from here, this will be left with x plus b over a is equal to negative c over a. So you can see that at this particular junction, I'll be stuck. You cannot say the product of two numbers is equal to negative c over a. So s is negative c over a, or s plus b over a is negative c over a. It's very wrong. I told you that the product of two numbers, you can only do it that way if it's equal to 0. So you can say s is equal to 0, or this guy is equal to 0. So the fact that we cannot factorize this way, we now have to make the left hand side a perfect square so that we can easily what? Factorize. Now let's expand the right hand side. Right hand side there, you're having a negative c over a plus b over 2a all squared will give us b squared over 2a all squared is 4a squared. 2 squared is 4, a squared is what? A squared. Now this will give us x plus b over 2a all squared is equal to the LCM of a and 4a squared is simply 4a squared. A into 4a squared is 4a. 4a times negative c is negative 4ac plus 4a squared into 4a squared is 1. 1 times b squared is b squared. Now, still on the proving, I can rearrange this guy to be x plus b over 2a all squared to be equal to b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. Now I believe you agree with me that we can easily take the square root of both sides. We can easily take the square root of both sides, and the square root of a number is positive or negative of that number. So let's take the square root of both sides. If I do that, if I take the square root of this guy, the square root sign will cancel this square, so I'll be left with x plus b over 2a is equal to square root of this guy will give me square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. I believe we all know, or we all agree, that the square root of a over b is equal to the square root of a over the square root of b. Now the square root of the numerator does not have a perfect square root, but the square root of the denominator is equal to 2a. Square root of 4 is 2, square root of a squared is a. So I can look for the square root of the denominator, but I can't look for the square root of the numerator. Remember, we are supposed to have a plus or minus sign here. So my x will be equal to, move this guy to the other side, you are going to have a negative b over 2a plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That is the square root of 4a squared. Now, same denominator. How do you add and subtract fractions with same denominator? So this will give us x is equal to negative b over 2a plus or minus, add and subtract, same denominator. You simply add and subtract the numerator and leave the denominator. So this will give us negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So this is what we call the formula method, and most of you refer to it as the almighty formula. S is equal to negative b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac is equal to 2a. Now you can see that all these steps we took to get this formula, if you use this step in solving a question, we call it solving using completing the square method. However, if you use all this, or rather if you don go through all this step and just input your value into this formula, we call it solving using formula method, or what we refer to as almighty formula method. So that's that for formula method. If you like this video, use the like button, subscribe button and share button. Don't also hesitate to leave your comments in the comment section. Thanks for watching once more. See you guys in my next video.